Welcome everybody at our third digital cafe. Today topic is data-driven marketing and customer data platforms. So thanks for everybody for joining, and thanks at the beginning to Gal and Miro from Swiss School of Business and Management for supporting us to create and now run the cafe, because without you it won't be possible to run all these shows and events which we are doing at the moment. So very shortly at the beginning, I will just quickly say a few words about our today's guests speakers. No matter that I will present them a bit more in the details before their lectures. Today with us we have Philip Lauwers from Zeta Global. He's the VP Operation and Customer Success for EMEA. And Jochen Toffer, he's from Axiom company, as Senior Vice President Professional Services. As I said, I will speak a bit more about them and present them, and they will present themselves at a later stage of today's presentation. Before we start, let me just take you through and say a few words about our calendar for the year. Today it's April 26th, and as I mentioned, we'll speak about the data-driven marketing and customer data platforms. And we have some new things here, and I marked it with red. So on the May 10th, we will go with another digital cafe. That one will be with Mr. Alan Visser. He's the global CEO of Link & Co, a company which is owned by Volvo and Geely. And he will speak about a specific business model. This company is basically disrupting the way how we are buying cars. So very, very interesting. And I will do this cafe. This will be the first time in live from Sweden, from Göteborg, at the facilities of Link & Co, so-called clubs, so I will have a chance to speak with Alan at Link & Co club. The other one which I wanted to mention to you, it will happen on the May 17th, when besides Paul and Michele from Meta, Facebook, and Circle 4 X, I met Brian Kramer from Naples, Florida, from US. And he's at the moment using lots of Metaverse technology for the vehicle sales. He's a representative of US dealers at many forums of Google and Meta. So I think he will be a really interesting speaker and lecturer to tell you more about how they are leveraging already Metaverse space at their daily work. June 21st, we'll have a customer experience of the Mercedes-Benz. Marco Gehring will join us, and today I have seen some new announcement for Mercedes-Me at their product portfolio and the services they started to leverage through the customer experience and Mercedes-Me. So I think it will be the right moment also to speak about it and see how this one of the biggest global brand is leveraging customer experience and the digital. As I already mentioned, I'm not showing this here. By end of the year, we plan to have many other speakers. Some of them, as I mentioned, will be from India for the India Day or China for China Day. But get ready for Vice President of L'Oreal, one of the biggest global platform business we will speak about, and many, many other topics. Today's agenda is basically same 60 minutes like previous digital cafes. I am just using the time for this introduction. Then we will have our both lecturers speaking about what they do and how they progress with the data-driven marketing technology processes, people, how they support the businesses. And then we will have the panel discussion and the Q&A. And thanks for those who already send their questions to me directly through LinkedIn. So I would suggest, and once again recommend to you Please, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions related Digital Cafe, or you would like to ask the questions up front for our panelists or speakers, please use my credentials. You see here my email address at SSBM, or you could find me on LinkedIn, and just contact me, and I'll put it on the list, and we'll try to answer all the questions you might ask. So before we start with Philip and Johan, I'll just shortly put you into the picture of today's lectures of our guests, and once again remind you that SSBM have a program which is called Customers Data Driven Marketing. This is the certification program, and basically as part of this certification program, we are addressing the whole transformation, digital transformation, but also transformation of the customer experience. And we are looking at the 3 modules at those. At first module, it's customers, where I speak about the customer experience, where I speak about the journeys, how to create personas. Then the second one, it's about the data and analytics, where we look at big data strategies, how to build the brand gardens, how to work more on the first party data strategy. And then at the last 3rd module, we are going into the technology, where I go through different technology that marketers are today using, and those are the MarTech technologies, and explaining how to use it, how to leverage it for the sake of the business. One of the main technologies, I always call it the engine technology for data-driven marketing. It's definitely customer data portals. And we will have a chance today to listen about that from Philip and Johan, which I think it's a really great opportunity having those 2 executives with us, sharing from the first hand how they support the business of different industries at our world. Just shortly about MarTech technology, I think this is always good to show and repeat. And I'm using here the Scott Brinker slide. He's the editor of the blog Chief MarTech, and he counted like 8,000 technology tools on the MarTech landscape. And then basically those tools are split at these islands, which you see. It's a bit blurry, but there are many, many different vendors which are basically supporting the industry and the companies with some of the tools. And those tools are split at the different solution and categories from advertising, content experience, social, e-commerce, data, and management. So yeah, it's incredible how this landscape is growing year over year, and it looks like never-ending story, you know. So and sometimes you believe everything is invented, but the next day there is a new player on the market. What I think it's important still in this introduction is to think about these digital transformation pillars. And as many companies and as many leaders of the companies are mainly focused when they think about the digital transformation, about technology and enablers, I think this is important, and we have to take about that. And I just spoke on my previous slide about these MarTech tools and the categories and 8,000 different tools which are counted at the moment. But everything, in fact, should be starting with changing the business principles, with changing the processes, thinking about how to put the business in new environment, because the technology is changing the world and changing the way how the customers are behaving, and that's why everything gets different. So it's not only about putting some people here and there to manage the digital enablers, the tools, but it's about fundamentally changing the business processes and making sure the right people are there. Sometimes those people can be trained within the company, but sometimes, and in most of the cases, companies have to hire totally new type of the people to support and run the change, run the digital disruption. All this at the kind of one line are going into direction of changing the organizational culture. Because if the culture is not changed of the company, all those pillars will not work. So this is, I think, at one slide about how the digital transformation should work. We will speak more about that, and I think Johan will be more speaking about the left two buckets, about the people, about the processes, and Philip will focus on digital enablers and technology. So this is for my introduction. And now, first of all, I would like to present Philip, who is today with us. As I mentioned, he is the Vice President Operations and Customer Success for EMEA at Zeta Global. I'll just stop sharing at the moment to see Philip.
Hi, Damir. At the beginning of the presentation, my video dropped away. So if someone can start the video again.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, there I am again. Okay, hello.
So I would just say a few words about you, Philip, before I ask you some questions, So basically, Philip is one of the pioneer of the data business. I call it the data business. And he had several senior positions at technology companies like Nate Mining, like Denso. Philip, besides he's running the operations of the big multinational companies, he also is investor in several startups and scale-ups, which I think it's about the digital industry as itself. Besides that, Philip is also lecturing at Odyssey Business School and the Leuven University. So I don't want to say, Philip, that we are old, but looks to me that we are both for quite long in this industry. When did you start?
Indeed, it's a long time because you showed the Martech, Chief Martech slide there, and I still remember, I think it was 2008 that we were a dozen companies and our company was there very clearly in the middle. Nowadays, I can't read the logos anymore because there are indeed 8,000 companies on that slide. But those were the days, and so I started in the 90s, end of the 90s with net mining, with the idea that algorithms could put some clear directions in the wild west of the internet. But we were way ahead of the curve, way too early in the market. Very difficult to convince clients, so it was a very difficult time. But then, indeed, suddenly 2005, 2006, we saw big companies like Opel jumping on the bandwagon, using the technology to make sales leads for the salespeople, for the dealerships. We saw also HP and hotel chains and so many other companies jumping on that idea that algorithms and doing data analysis on clickstream data, on internet data is really had some futures, had a good future, and there basically it all started. So indeed, my background is more entrepreneurial. So I started a few companies. Then it is managerial, although I do it today as Zeta bought my company 2.5 years ago. So, so this is one of the reasons.
We have lots of ambitious people here. How is to start with a startup? How is to be the founder of the startup? What kind of environment this is?
It's difficult, but I would certainly do it again. I have now a little bit the luxury that I can help young people or even older people that are starting a business. I like that very much. I think it's one of the ways to be very creative in your life, to link to solve business problems, even more than business problems. Sometimes also problems that are linked to the world. You can solve a lot of things. World problems with entrepreneurial initiatives. So really in support of that. And
how was with net mining, for example? Have you seen the success at the beginning of your journey, or you were just running into it and then what happens? I'll fix it when it comes, the problem?
No, we started at the university at last year, and so that was a little bit easy. But then after the university, you start with basically one new computer and then a second-hand computer, and you start writing some algorithms, and then you go to a website. And in those days, websites were certainly not at the same.
No, it was not garage. It was not garage. It was university.
It was certainly not garage, but it was not far away of that. So.
Because I heard all the most successful companies are starting at garage.
Yeah.
So, and then when have you seen this success is going into something big, and at the end, you sold the company, you sold the startup.
Yeah. Well, I think you need, one of the great things of having a company is that one of the moments you get a breakthrough is when you have a bigger organization. In this case, it was Opel and HP who said, we believe in you. And they start taking this technology and implementing it across Europe in our case. At that moment, you get, that's the best marketing you can have. That's the best venture capital you can have. That's the best leverage you can get with your company if you have those types of clients. And I'm very grateful of what happened there, and that was really a breakthrough. Yeah.
So you created net mining, then you sold the net mining, and then you started working in another startup, Ignition One.
Then we started indeed with some old colleagues and another startup, indeed Ignition One, and we started also a few other startups, because in the 90s it was very difficult to get some venture capital, and nowadays it's completely different. There's a lot of venture capital in the world. So then we said, okay, let's do something back from people that are starting a company, and that was one of the ideas we had in those days.
Good. And today, basically, you are working at one of the biggest global company leveraging data, working with data, if I'm not wrong, at US after Google and Facebook, Zeta Global. It's basically processing as a third company, and you are responsible for customer success. What does it mean? Is that what I mean? You are working for the customer success. So what kind of job is that?
Yep. So we have a big part of Zeta is SaaS business, so software as a service. So with a lot of recurring business, and one of these secret forces, you can say, in SaaS business is not only taking new clients in, that's a typical sales process, but also to keep your clients. And customer success is typically what they do. Once a client is a client, we try to keep the client, grow the client, make that recurring monthly revenue. That's we need to grow this revenue. And then when you do this and you get new clients in, and you can keep your clients, then you get a kind of a hockey stick approach when it comes to revenue. That's of course a very nice place to be, because in the SaaS industry, typically your costs are not growing as fast as your revenue. Certainly in every industry, in every healthy industry, that should be the case. But in SaaS industry, you really get a very hockey stick approach for revenue, and then a very almost horizontal line when it comes to your costs, and then you get, of course, a very interesting business model.
So basically, your success, it's a success of the client, and once the client, they are driving the business, they are growing the business, that means that your company is delivering the values.
Yeah.
The clients supporting their business, and I think it's a fantastic definition. To be honest, I was not even thinking about such a business model, but listening you and knowing for some years that this department, it's one of the very usual department at the SaaS industry. I think it have lots of sense. And I mean, I was also as on the client side having support from different vendors on that side, and I think that's makes the difference. I think this is coming together with technology, and without the people, even having the best technology in the world, I think we could do nothing, and that's why I think your job is really valuable.
Yeah,
and now, Philip, you are basically Zeta Global. Is within the trend, and this trend is coming from collecting lots of data all over different touch points, and then processing those data and predicting what will be the next step of the customers, and then creating all kind of customer experience environment where we want to be really in line with the customer. So I'm speaking about customer data portals. Is that the focus of Zeta now?
Yes. We started from an email an email side of the MarTech industry, but today we're really a data company. We're also very strong in programmatic business, and we're going to see it in a couple of minutes. Having that multi-channel approach is in my opinion, very important. And you need to have the data, big data, but you need also to have big content. Big data can't live without big content, and the glue between the two are the channels, and you need to deliver that content in the right way at the right moments to the right people. So it's all interconnected nowadays.
Floor is yours, Philip. So you could start your presentation and explain a bit more about customer data portals and how this helps many customers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Damir.
You're welcome. Please.
I'm not sure. Can you see my screen?
I think it's coming. It's black.
It's black. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. We have it.
There it is. Yes. Okay. Good. So basically, and Damir was already saying, I'm in the customer success department. So our main goal is to make our clients heroes. But we are in a SaaS company talking about data and algorithms and so. But when I talk to my mother, for instance, or my mother-in-law, and she's asking what are you doing? Well, I'm saying I'm by far the largest seller of cars in the world, and nobody, together with my team and of course the salespeople at the clients, are selling so many cars. And how many? Well, more than 1 million last year. More than 1 million cars were identified on the internet, leads, prospects, and we convinced those people with the right content at the right moment, the right channels and so on, to leave contact details, to do a test drive, and then in the end, buy a car. And it's really incremental, and because if you do an A/B test, you see a nice uplift. And this is one of the challenges, and that you see, for instance, that the woman is saying, I would like to know more about my known and my anonymous visitors on the website. That's one of the challenges we have today, and that you're trying to solve. But also, you would like to have more insights. You would like to engage with them. So you would like to find a way to deliver the right content, and you want to do this in real time. And because in offline world, you can take your data, you can look at it, you can make a nice Excel file and then print it out, and so on and so on. On the internet, you have that window, that 200 milliseconds. It's even less, 50 milliseconds, 30 milliseconds. And in that 30 milliseconds, you have to do a lot. You have to collect the data, you have to analyze the data, you have to deliver content. And that 30 milliseconds or the 50 milliseconds is less than a blink of an eye. So we need to be very fast and very smart at the same moment. And that's basically our challenge. How do we solve that challenge? Well, Damir mentioned already, the core element is a CDP, is data, is a data platform. And there are many flavors of that. You have CDPs, and nowadays that are very focused on data. If you have a little bit more tools and features in your CDP, you see that you see CDPs that are more focused on analytics. Lately, we saw also more campaign CDPs, where you have a possibility also to segment your clients, to personalize it, to set up your interactions. But nowadays, the real goal is, of course, to deliver those messages, and to not only have a possibility to make content, but also to find or to own your channels. I like sending it through email. That person is clicking on email, is coming back on the website. Well, don't show the same content, but then, for instance, say something different. When he's then coming back in on the advertising, bringing back, but make basically a story, a digital story. And in the end of the day, those delivery CDPs are really telling a digital story. And that's for me the end goal. And because if you become a digital storyteller as a marketeer, this is really a great place to be. Because I think every marketeer, when you make an advertisement or a video or something else, you want to create a story with your product. And with a delivery CDP, you can create a digital story across different channels with different messages for certain people. Yeah. So if we bring this all now together, and because we were talking about technology, so what are basically the building blocks of the technology? Yeah. So you can say you have three types of data. You have your anonymous data, you have your known data, and you have your customer records. And the anonymous data, typically we have the internet. The known data is, for instance, the data that you have your lead data, people, last name, first name, but they're not customers yet, so they're not a client. And the customer data is, of course, the data is coming out of your CRM and other departments, your sales departments. In the middle, you have your CDP and what we call the identity resolution building block. And so the Lego block, that's basically the engine that is bringing everything together. And you have one identity that you need to in order to make sure that you treat the same person in the same way, or that you can tell a story to that person. So the identity resolution is an important element. Typically for Zeta, but that's not typically for a CDP, we're also adding what we call a data cloud. What is a data cloud? Well, next to the CDP, which is often empty, and that needs to be populated by the data of the client, Zeta can also deliver its own data. And Damir mentioned it at the beginning. For instance, everybody knows LinkedIn, but Zeta has more first-party consent email addresses with a consent on it, in the US than, for instance, LinkedIn. We have a lot of signals that are coming in through websites. We own a lot of data. For instance, if you do a review on a website, we own that technology, and we have review technology that is out there on blogs and on vlogs, where people can do can chat. Well, all that data is coming in and can be used to create what we call a data cloud. This is not typically CDP, that's typically Zeta in the USA, where we can complement this view with a data cloud. And then when you bring everything together, you have the channels that like connected TV, the social search and programmatic channels for advertisement. You have your email, your website, and so on and so on. SMS, a very important channel that's on the rise lately around marketing technology. And also your call center technology, point of sales, CRM, and so on and so on. All that are the building blocks that are creating a CDP. And every building block has its specific technology. We will not go in detail about that. We spoke about that in the longer session, when we had a lecture about the building blocks. But here you can say this is a summary of everything, what you need to have in the to build from a technology point of view a very performing CDP nowadays. So I'm going to stop sharing and give it back to you.
So thank you very much, Philip. I think it was a really interesting presentation. And here we could get the first idea of what customer data platform is. I would just underline what Philip was presenting. So collection of the data from different sources. Yeah. Sometimes could be anonymous, sometimes could be known customers. Then basically reworking on those data using artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, and then basically pushing it out through the different communication channels. And this is, I think this is what we discussed it also on the previous digital cafe. Best marketers, best companies are currently not running anymore the campaigns. They are having the always on campaigns, because whenever there is a status, whenever there is a certain change in the customer profile, which requires the activation of certain campaign, then basically here is this tools, here is where the data-driven marketing starts. So thank you very much, Philip. I think equally important in this kind of equation, in this operation, it's about to making this all together and putting this all together into the work, into the organizations. I was part and leading the digital transformation in my previous company, where we were also changing the technology and the processes and the people. So we were deploying Salesforce Marketing Cloud technology. Zeta Global was also there with us. Part of technology was coming from Siebel, Oracle. And as you just heard that, and there are many, many other integrations. As you just heard that, it's a very, very complex process, to change at multinational companies, processes, people, technologies, because there is already something which is there. And then all these integrations are very, very critical and complex. If I would not be having the support of the company like Jochen is representing here, I think we will never come to an end. Maybe we will come to an end, but it will be much, much slower. So Jochen will currently and today take us through that part of the business. And before we start with his presentations, just a few words about Jochen. So currently, he is the Senior Vice President of Axiom Professional Services for EMEA. He have really lots of experience with the data and working with the data. Jochen, as you might heard, is coming from Switzerland. And besides working a lot with the data, Jochen have lots of experience with the banking financial industries, so which is not, I think, a big surprise for the Switzerland. But in this presentation, in today's presentation, the most important, Jochen is basically leading the strategy consulting, the data science analytics, solution integration, and product management as part of professional services he is responsible for. So let me stop that to see you. So how do you feel with all this data and people and businesses? And does the people understand, does the company understands easily, or they come to that the services of integrations are equally important like the technology?
That's a very good question. And based on my experience, not very few people on all levels really understand the value that data can provide before they have tried to implement and go through a change process and then always measure the value and loop back to the beginning. It's not an easy process. And to tell the story with the data where it begins is a tough one. Is really not easy. My career started in the business intelligence arena, looking at the results of management information system and the whole BI space with life cycle technology was invented, developed, implemented, and everything. But that is a level above. And then I stepped down to really the data infrastructure provider Teradata at that time as a large provider for large enterprises, and we all tried to leverage data. And that's not easy. It's not easy in banks. It is maybe easier in IT companies like eBay that started very early to leverage their infrastructure. Maybe easier, but then to create the value for a specific function like marketing has its own complexity with the marketing ecosystem and the technological aspects that Philip touched upon. That's not an easy category to work in, to have the two-speed data and stability and still the agility and the moment even of the customer, the consumer, to create relevant messaging and value in every moment. This is a very tough proposition, even still. Looking at the bank where I worked, that is so much easier. You have a monthly regulated, everything easy, but not billions of consumers in a moment.
Jochen, before we go into your presentation, you are the senior vice president of an enormously big global corporation. So what was the moment and how that moment looked like? What the company found, what was the values you could deliver to the company so that you could move from one position to such an important position as a senior vice president? And what would you recommend? Because we have lots of students on the call to them in terms of that kind of preparation. I guess the preparation was really long to come to the moment that you could jump on such an important position. So please, if you could share something which they could be having kind of learning for them, and so they could maybe follow your example and get motivated.
Okay, that's a good question also. And I'm happy that Philip took the customer success side of the equation, because that we are the classical setup. Professional services mean we support the change. So we do projects. And very simply spoken, we deliver projects, full stop. And then hand over to Philip. Takes care about the client and develops and grows. And
this is
everything.
Very important what you just said. Very important.
So we are acting in a defined time frame, a project. We enable the change, we actually deliver the value, and then the story actually begins on the customer success side. How do I get into a position like this? It clearly helps that I founded my own company, tried to find projects all over the place, started with small ones, medium-sized, bigger ones, and in the BI space, we delivered like 400 projects in a year. In the German-speaking markets, I was responsible for that kind of business 25 years ago, if I count correctly. So to be very flexible and small, medium-sized, and enterprise helps. And now the digital transformation at Axiom in the marketing ecosystem to enable the change from big global brands to think about data, think about analytics, think about compliance, engage with IT and providers and partners and cloud hyperscalers, and you better understand that this is a program, this is something really very big. So you need to be very knowledgeable about the content and the value that you're creating, but also the process of the program, how to deliver in time, in budget, find the right people. Don't get nervous when things go sideways. They always do. The important thing is you need to find a way back into. So this is, it needs time to prepare for this. And I had the time. And now it's the digital transformation in marketing is such a great opportunity to bring all the complexity together. The client sits in the middle. Everybody is focused on to make the client happy. And that's a challenging task.
I fully agree. A few words before I let you present about what kind of people you are looking for. What are the skills? What are the experience? What are the capabilities of today marketers? For example, you would be really happy to have in your team.
Yeah, as you mentioned already in the very beginning, we are supporting the end-to-end scope of a marketing transformation. So we have the strategy and consulting team to really help in understanding the readiness of a company, the capability readiness, and also the strategic work to align and the roadmap so that actually there is a project defined. And this is a tough mobilization internally, and we help there. So this is kind of one of the roles that we need: strategy consultants, business consultants with marketing expertise. Then the architects and the business analysts, the beginning of the project, very important: solution design, technological understanding, translating business to IT, that's all important. Otherwise, you are headed in the wrong direction and you'll never get where. So architects, very important. Then the implementation is the PMO, managing, governing, and also all sorts of development aspects. So if you are a Python developer, good.
But it's a lots of technological skills. You know, people today, to succeed in the marketplace, they have to understand technology. I mean, there are other type of the jobs, but if the people wants today to work in the marketing industry, they have to think about technology. Otherwise, that will be practically impossible to run the market, modern marketing.
And to actually create the value, that's the last part of my group is the analytics, data science and analytics. So data as a neutral something, it's something that sits in a technology, but if you don't do anything with it, there is no value. It's not an asset that just, you have to make use of it. Analytics bridges the business to the business function typically. So it helps marketing to provide the value. So a lot of analysts, data analysts, business intelligence, data and insights, audience measurement, really advanced analytics, data scientist skills are needed. A very faceted profile that we are always looking for.
I'm asking lots of questions because it's really interesting topic, and I think it's also interesting for our participants because people always like to understand, you know, how could they promote it, what's the future, where they should be turning in. But now we have to go into the presentation. So the floor is yours. You could start your presentations. I'm a bit took some time, so let's try to kind of go through the presentation and still keep some time for the end for the Q&A because we have some questions.
Okay.
So the floor is yours.
Happy to do so. So lots of challenges in data-driven marketing supported by different technologies like Philip pointed out, the CDP arena is not an old one, but a very good one and challenging one. And what we find is also what Philip described a little bit already. This is the place where data and technology meet, and different platforms and types of systems come together to bring MarTech, AdTech, data interaction and connect markets to people, being able to measure the value. So there's different angles of it. And my introduction a bit about the data topic, the data always sits in the middle. It's kind of the center of everything. Not everybody looks at it that way. That's my personal view. You can put the customer in the middle, but the customer data and the management of the customer data, this is where you feed in, and this is where you access and create the value. So in the middle of a marketing intelligence solution and the customer intelligence solution, there must be this component to to store the data and manage the data and make it accessible and usable for the whole ecosystem from a technology point of view and a business service point of view. So this is kind of the picture that we typically use to articulate that. And now how do you go on a path to come to that kind of picture in your own company? How does that work? And if you look at it, you have a data warehouse, probably. If you look some years back and you don't have a CDP in play already, you probably have a data warehouse, finance warehouse, clearly, maybe a customer data warehouse, focus on customers, but now you need to step up and have a two-speed and be real time and connect to the moment and to the ecosystem in marketing. That's all not easy. And you can do like 3 major approaches. A fast lane, that sounds actually very attractive, but it's more the very operational, you can improve type of path. And on the other end, it's the very slow lane. It sounds negative, but it's actually the very strategic path. But that's a very tough proposition to mobilize. So typically what we find, there's a middle version of a transformation that is foundational, proactive, still takes 2 to 3, maybe even longer years, and begins with what I mentioned, strategy and roadmap, the data identity pieces, technology and integration, and then to the marketing side of things, analytics, audience, measurement. And this all needs to be governed and managed as a transformation. So that's the path every company needs to kind of agree to. It's not a project, it's a program, it's a transformation. And if you don't do it, maybe even a disruption, because that's the nature of the market that we are all in. So the Axiom portfolio, also very simple and almost classic, is we have also products. Philip mentioned data products, which is kind of a very nice asset to have. He would probably agree, to start the story from change and then run customer success from our own data assets. Axiom is also 50 years in this business. And the services that I mentioned, consulting, platform services, analytics, is part of the change, what I described as professional services. Managed services is what Philip described as customer success. And solutions is different aspects that we actually deliver as combining different platforms, different services to add solutions into a transformation story of our clients. And we have different partners, of course. And now 1, 2, 3 slides about the customer data platform, very generic, but it is, as I said, I believe it belongs in the middle of this kind of a picture, and it's a very dynamic place to be. We really talk about streams and interaction and in the moment, in near real time. That's not just words that used to challenge a data warehouse environment. This is a requirement, and it's a very tough requirement. If you don't meet it, you better not even start the journey without technology that is not able to be in the moment, to trigger, to think, to interact with the consumer in the moment. And the most challenging requirement will always be the consumer. Like the human being is probably the most challenging use case to support. So the CDP, and now Axiom and CDP partners, they join up. They partner in a transformation journey. The technology vendors bring in, they manage the data, we add and enrich data, and we provide the framework of a transformation to govern the project. and make them step by step successful. That's the implementation partner side of Axiom, supporting the story that the CDP vendors are telling the market. And we make it happen. We support from a change point of view, and from a customer success point of view, we support whatever infrastructure is in place, far broader than the CDP alone. So the combination actually is something that an enterprise needs. Technology itself is a very important enabler. We all know that. Without the right technology, everything is cumbersome and impossible. But the aspects of change and run are also sometimes, not to say most of the times, underestimated. And change is very important, but maybe even more is the value creation on the customer success side. So the technology and the PS function, the professional service, needs to do a good job so that the value creation actually kicks in on the customer success side, and the business case continues to be attractive and positive, and client is happy, the enterprise is happy, the business functions, marketing is happy. That's what I think Philip and I would try to achieve, this kind of a combination. So after 5 years, the client looks back, we spend a lot of money for technology, even more for the project, and now we are creating the value in a customer success fashion. That's a little bit my story, how to create the value from technology plus the professional service into the never-ending value creation of a customer success environment.
So thank you very much, Jochen, for that. If you could maybe bring us back to the screen.
Yes, please.
So yes, good, super good. So I mean, look, we don't have a time that our speakers really would need to present that in more details. But I think the main point is here, so today's age is change. Today's marketing paradigm is different. We had the transition from analog to the digital age. Data-driven marketing is prevailing. And in the moment, it's the way how the modern marketers are running the business, using the data, leveraging those data through the technology, but leveraging those data through building the new processes, new sales models, which are within the digital online environment. And for that, you need different companies, you need different supports, levels, so that you could basically run your business in the way as it should be done today. I will save my questions for that moment, but Gal, I think I would rather spend some time, we still have 7 minutes for the questions from our participants. So please, if you could read the few.
Hi, absolutely. Just wanted to say thank you again to Jochen and Philip for wonderful presentations and chat. So we do have a couple of questions. So let's start off with Amit. How do you find balance between 2 or more competitors? And are your customers in the same product market?
Can you say that again?
Sure, no problem. 1 second. So how do you find a balance between 2 or more competitors? And are your customers, are they in the same product market?
I think the industry, it's different, so basically the CDPs and what our guests are basically supporting, they support different industries. And I mean, different, automotive, finance, insurance, whatever you could imagine. So all those industries are basically using the data in everyday life. So I see some other questions, how it's from Atenas, so he's asking, or she's asking, sorry about that. What are the tools they use to collect those data from consumers? So those, maybe Philip, you want to answer. So you have some of those taggings around. So how do you collect the data from different sources?
You mentioned already tagging is a very important element, especially, and there's not a lot of companies doing that when we are tagging every page on a website. So that's basically putting a piece of script, JavaScript in the footer of a page. That is then transferring the data to the other side. There are also other ways. We mentioned already, for instance, platforms like Discuss that are review sites where you get also data in. So there's a lot of possibilities there to get consumer data in. It's important, certainly in Europe, to have this in line with GDPR. So have consent, for instance, and many other elements are important there. You have, of course, also the data from your clients, and they get it from even from different locations, and everything is coming together in the CDP.
Maybe Johan, you could answer the question to Neno Predragovic from Molson Coors Beverage Company. He's the global purchasing manager, and he was asking about how to leverage the data and data-driven marketing and this technology at beverage industry. Is that possible? Because I mean, we know that beverage industry is a lot about distributors, you know. So if somebody producing Coca-Cola or beer, you know, so there is a big, you know, wall in between. But I guess this is also changing, and that could be kind of omni-channel combination of the different sources. How would you answer this question? You know, so beverage industry and data-driven marketing.
Sometimes I like to have these discussions about the ecosystem. What actually happens when people come together? And if you look at the beverage industry, they come together in a restaurant, in a bar. They sit at the table, they have a reservation, now they're about to order. So if the system in place that takes the order is from a beverage company, the big ones, supported. So every order is in a system, managed, and can be connected to the marketing ecosystem as an audience, because you are part of the system. You go into a restaurant, you place an order, you drink, and then you watch TV at the same time in the same restaurant, and you are identified with your friends as part of an audience. You see advertisements or other messages in the very same moment. That is something not many companies can leverage. Not many can bring the people into one place and create the environment that they agree that, yes, I don't mind if I reserve my seat, I come here, I'm not an anonymous, I'm not unknown, I'm known because I like the bar and I like the restaurant, I like the beer, and I'm happy with that. That's my consent, that's still a brace, it's important. And then the data assets of a beverage company is connected to the full marketing ecosystem in all channels.
Thank you very much.
That's an ecosystem.
Okay. So last question before I will close. Thank you, Johan, for this answer to Neno. So Philip, maybe you could say just a few words in 1 minute about the GDPR compliance. And there was one question about the programmatic. Would that work in the cookieless world? So just short answer on that one. GDPR first, maybe.
Yeah, CDP is, I think, to be GDPR compliant, to know what's happening with your data. Where is my data? Do I have consent on all my data and all the other things? I think you need to have a database, a very performing database, in order to manage those things nowadays. I think a CDP is one of those key elements and key crucial in order to achieve this. So that's I think the link to GDPR. I think it's really mission critical to have a CDP. And then advertising or programmatic in the cookieless world, yes, I think it's still possible. It will be different. It will be more connected to the walled gardens. There will be other IDs. Also, Jochen mentioned in one of the slides the ID, the identification. It's important, but it will be different. It will not so easy like with a simple cookie. Nowadays, it will be a bit more complex, and probably there will be also a price linked to it, a price tag linked to it. But I still think it will be possible to do programmatic to a certain extent, or other ways of advertising and contextual and so on are certainly possible, and also good ways to do advertising.
Thank you very much, Philip. So I think we had two excellent guest lecturers, presenters, and thanks for that. I really enjoyed. This is my favorite topic, if I could say, data-driven marketing, customer data portals, integrations, which I also spend a lot of my time in my career. And thanks, Philip, thanks, Jochen, thanks, Miro, and thanks, Gal, for helping all this comes together. Thanks for the participants. But before we would leave, just a small reminder, please register for our next session. I will be live from Göteborg, from Sweden, together with Alan Visser, who is the global CEO of the Link & Company. The lecture will take place on the 10th of May. It will be a bit, let's call it a different time. It will be noon 30, so 12:30 to 1:30 Central European Time. And I think it will be really interesting, because this company is changing totally the way how the people are selling and buying the cars. So disruption in automotive industry. So join us, and I hope it will be interesting also for you, the next session, which is taking place on the 10th of May. So once again, thank you very much to all. I hope you enjoyed the sessions, and looking forward to see you at the next one. So thank you very much, and goodbye to all.
Thank you for the
opportunity.
opportunity.
Thank you, Damir. Thank you all.
Bye. Bye.